Hello and welcome back to my channel. In my video today, I'm going to be exploring some new colors from Spellbinders, although they're not that new anymore, but they're new Colorwheel Cardstock. So there are 48 colors and I have the A2 panels, and I'm going to be comparing these colors to my existing cardstock to see which of them I want to incorporate into my cardstock collection. So starting off with the neutrals, we have white, which is just a very basic white and pretty much matches some of my existing whites. So I don't think I'm going to add this specific white into my collection. Next is the black color, which is called Raven. And again, it is a black, and so again, not necessarily a color I'm going to add. Moving on to the grays, there are two grades. The lighter grade is called Fog, and it's a little bit lighter than some of the grays that I currently have. So I think I will go ahead and add this one to my set. And then the darker gray is called Anchor, and it is also a color that I don't quite have yet, and I think it's a good in-between gray shade. So I think I will add that to my collection. The next color is Alabaster, so moving on to the browns, and it exactly matches the existing Alabaster color from Spellbinders that they had before this new collection. And now on to the browns. This is Fawn, and I think this is a good medium brown. I don't really have a lot of good browns, so I think this would be a good color to add. And additionally, this is Acorn, and again, it's not really a shade that I already have, so I think I'm going to add this as well. And the final color is Truffle, and this matches almost exactly to Nutmeg from Conquer the Ninth, but Nutmeg is being phased out, and so I think this would be a good replacement. Moving on to the purples, so there are about 6 shades of purples, starting with the traditional sort of purple colors. I have Fairy Tale, which is lighter than Lilac from Conquer the Ninth, so I think that's a good one to add. The next color, Lavender, is pretty similar to Lavender Field from Altenew, so I don't think I'm going to add that one right now. And finally, the last color is called Lilac, and it's very similar to the Grape Soda color from Conquer the Ninth, so again, I don't think I will add that one. The next shade is kind of similar to Plumberry from Conquer the Ninth, and a little bit darker than Fig, but I think it's a nice color, so I'm going to add it. And then the next color is called Mulberry, and I'm not really a fan of this shade, although I do think it's a good addition. It kind of fits nicely into some of the existing colors that I have. Similarly with this Orchid color, again, it fits in pretty nicely with some of these pinks, but they're not my favorite shades. They're not shades I gravitate towards very often, so I don't think I'm going to incorporate them right now. Moving on to the blue colors, and starting with the darkest shade is Indigo, and it's a little bit different, more purpley than the Nautical I have from Hero Arts. And I just kind of prefer the sort of truer blue tone, so I think I'm going to keep that, not use it. Cosmic Sky is identical to the previously existing Cosmic Sky, so no need to add that. The next color is Celestial, and it's a little bit darker than the previous color called Partly Cloudy from Spellbinders. It kind of fits nicely in between some of these colors, although I'm not sure if I really want to add it at this stage. Additionally, this is called Cascade. I think it's called Cascade. At some point I got confused between the color names, so this might not be actually Cascade, but I think it is. And it's kind of, it goes really well with Celestial. And so I'm not really certain about these. I ultimately decide not to add them right now, but they're really nice colors. And then this last color is called Windy, and it's a little bit different than Powder. It doesn't quite fit. Again, it's more of kind of a grayish blue. The next set are sort of the turquoises or teals, and this is my favorite shade, so I'm going to incorporate ultimately all 3 of these colors. They are called Oceanside, Malibu, and Breeze. I just think they go really, really well together, and they're not colors I don't really have in my collection already. And also this is sort of my favorite color, so I might as well have multiples of them. Next, moving on to the sort of teal shades, turquoise shades. This color is called Blue Spruce, but it's identical to the previous Lagoon color. I absolutely love this color, use it a lot, but don't need to add it because I already have it. Same with this color, Teal Topaz, the exact same shade and the exact same name as the previously existing. And then this last shade, Waterfall, it is a slightly different color than the previous Waterfall, but I probably won't add it until I've run out of what I already have. The next two colors are called Seaside and Mint, and these are sort of some really light greenish blue colors that I don't quite have. The mint color is lighter than the existing mint I have from Simon Says Stamp. The green color, this is called Fern, is very similar to Noble Fir from Lawn Fawn. So I'm not going to add that color. And then the next color, Rainforest, would probably fit in somewhere, in the sort of truer greens. But I'm not going to add it. I just don't love the shade and where it fits into my existing palette. And then Peridot is a little bit lighter than Lemongrass from Concord and Ninth. But again, don't super love the color as it fits into my existing color palette. So I'm not going to add them right now. Shifting to the yellows. Tuscan matches identical to the previous Tuscan. Saffron matches identically to the previous Saffron. And then Beeswax is very similar to Buttercup from Concord and Ninth, so I'm not going to incorporate these colors at this stage. This cinnamon color, starting the orange, is a little bit darker than the Cayenne from Concord and Ninth, so I think it's a nice color that I don't already have. And then there's Terracotta, which is kind of similar to Spice Cider. It's a little bit darker than Spice Cider, but I feel like it's close enough. They don't really need two shades. And then finally, the last color of orange is called Carrot, and it's a little bit darker than the Persimmon, the color previously from Spellbinders, so I don't think I need it, though, right now. And then the res, Crimson, it matches the new cranberry color, and then Poppy Field matches the poppy color that it's now called Poppy, but they're identical. And then the third red, sort of in the middle, is called Pomegranate, and it matches the chili pepper color from Lawn Fawn almost exactly. So again, not going to add any of these reds. Moving on to the peaches and coral colors, this first color is called Sicily, which is not a color I have. And then the next color is called Coral, which is kind of similar to Grapefruit, but I think the Coral matches better with the Sicily than with the Concord and Ninth Grapefruit. Like, I just think they combine a little bit more nicely together. It's kind of hard to see on the screen, but in person that was kind of my thought process, so I decided to keep both of those. The next color is Bellini, which is almost an exact match to Nectar from Concord and Ninth, so I'm not going to keep this color right now. And then the last color is called Chiffon, and it's kind of similar to the Barely Peach color, but it's actually more of a peach tone than the Barely Peach, so I'm going to add that one. And then moving on to the pinks, although this is kind of more of a reddish pink, I don't know why I'd group this one together, but it's called Merlot, and I think it fits nicely in my collection. The middle color is called Dahlia and matches with the existing Dahlia from Spellbinders. The in-between of those two shades is called Wildberry, and I think that's a really beautiful in-between shade. And then finally, the two pinks are called Tutu and Blush. I don't really gravitate towards pinks very much, but if I were to add these to my collection, I'd probably, add this between Concord and Ninth's Ballet Slipper and Cotton Candy from Simon Says Stamp, and then that other color is probably between Carnation and Pink Lemonade from Concord and Ninth, although I chose not to add them at this stage. So I was on the fence on some of these colors, but ultimately decided to add Wildberry, Merlot, Chiffon, Coral, Sicily, Cinnamon, Mint, Seaside, Breeze, Malibu, Oceanside, Violet, Fairy Tale, Truffle, Acorn, Fawn, Fog, and Anchor to my color palette. So now I'm going to make the swatches. So I have my paper trimmer, and I have my tag punch, and I have my rounded corner punch, and this is what I will use to make my tags. So I will cut a 2-inch by 3.5-inch piece of cardstock out of each of my colors, so I'll just replicate that. When I make swatches, I generally make them in bulk, so I'm doing multiple each time. Once I have all of those, I will line up, since they're 2 inches wide, they'll fit into the grooves of the 2-inch sort of tag punch. So there's multiple sizes in this punch, and the 2-inch one is in the middle. So I'll replicate that for each of the tags. And then I will round all of the corners. So I'll round one corner, then flip it around and round the second corner. Again, repeating that for each of my tags. So they have a nice clean edge and they sort of look kind of intentional. I'm then going to separate them into lights and darks because I use clear label tape with black text for the lighter colors and white text for the darker colors. That way they sort of blend in with the background with the clear tape, but they're still legible no matter what color they are. And I use my P-Touch Brother label maker and I just plug it into my computer, and so it's 1/2 inch or almost 1/2 inch, and then the length is going to be slightly less than 2 inches because the tags are 2 inches. So I will add the color and the company name and I'll hit print, and I like to do chain printing up until the last one so that I can save some tape. And so I'll go ahead and print out all of those labels and then adhere them to my cardstock swatches. I'll repeat that. So I do all of the black text first, and then I'll repeat that for the white text because I have to change the tape. And so I'll just repeat that for all of my remaining swatches. And then comes the fun part, adding them into the existing range of colors that I already have, trying to find the right place for each of the colors. I like to keep all of my colors together, no matter what company they're from, so I don't separate by company, because I like to sort of interchange the different colors. And so there is my full now existing color cardstock swatches, my collection, with the new Spellbinders colors incorporated into them. And I might need to get a new ring at some point because I am kind of running out of space. I have a lot of colors. I'm kind of obsessed with cardstock. But this was a great way to see which colors I wanted to add without breaking the bank, because who has money to burn on cardstock at this point? But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it gives you some ideas about what colors of Spellbinders cardstock you might want to add to your collection.